Imagine a world where that black golden oil, which today is the heartbeat of our lives, never existed. That oil which has not only been the backbone of the American economy, but also the center of politics, industry, and wars around the globe. What if this natural wealth had never emerged from the depths of the earth? Today, we will try to find the answer to this question. What you're about to see in this video is What If History. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do it now, and don't forget to like the video. In the early centuries, America was an agricultural country where people engaged in farming and small businesses. But everything changed when, in 1859, patent holder Oliver Evans drilled the first commercial oil well in Pennsylvania. Oil set America on new paths of the Industrial Revolution. Cars, factories, and weapons all began to rely on this black gold. If this oil had never come out of the ground, America might never have achieved industrial greatness. Imagine that at the end of the 19th century, America's economy was far weaker than it is today. Perhaps America would still be an agricultural country whose economic strength lagged behind other major powers like Britain, France, or Germany. And if America had been deprived of oil wealth, could it have played the same role in World War I and World War II? The supply of oil played a critical role in these wars, especially in the mobility of war vehicles, aircraft, and naval fleets. Moreover, due to the lack of oil, America might have been more cautious in its foreign policy. Its ability to participate in wars would have been weak, causing European powers to continue competing with each other for longer. The map of Europe might have been different, and perhaps instead of the Cold War, a different global tension would have emerged. Similarly, if oil did not exist, the Persian Gulf region would not have become the center of global politics as it is today. The states with the world's largest oil reserves might have had less importance, and the wars, crises, and power struggles there might never have happened. The roles of countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq in the global arena would have been different. It is possible that America's presence there would have been minimal, and the shape of global politics would have changed entirely. It's worth thinking that if oil had not existed, new forms of energy, such as solar energy, wind-generated electricity, or nuclear power, would have developed much earlier and faster. Perhaps today we would be living in a world where cars and machines ran on environmentally friendly sources instead of traditional fuels. This change would not only reduce environmental crises, but also alter the politics of global power. But would this change have been that easy? What path would the global economy and technology have taken in the absence of natural oil? If there had been no oil in America, could it have become a global superpower? Or would the center of power on the world map have been somewhere else? All these questions take us beyond the history of the past to a parallel universe where every decision, every opportunity, and every resource creates a new future. But the most important question is, in such a world, would the American dream and American power look the same as we see today? Or would it all have been just an idea, a dream? In the second part of this journey, we will go deeper to see how America's social, political, and economic structure would change in the absence of oil. Would it remain weak in wars with other countries, or perhaps transform into a new kind of power? And most importantly, in this alternate world, would the standard and pace of human civilization be different from today? So get ready, because in the next part, we will explore those aspects of the story that have changed the world today as much as they could have if there had been no oil. A world where the scarcity of natural resources completely altered America's history and the destiny of the world. As we step back into this parallel world where the lack of oil put America on a completely different path, we have to see in which direction the country's politics and society would go. The absence of oil limited America's economy, and perhaps it never reached the military strength and global influence it did in the real world. Firstly, it is clear that America's industrial revolution would have progressed very slowly. Cars, trains, airplanes, and naval fleets that run on oil would have developed either in a limited way or would depend on very different sources of energy. As a result, America's industrial output would have been low, and it would have been unable to maintain its monopoly in international markets. Perhaps America would have remained largely an agricultural country and a minor player in front of trading powers. Politically, America's foreign policy would likely have been more cautious and limited. Its participation in World War I and World War II would have been weak, or it might not have joined the wars at all. Thus, the wars in Europe would have been longer, bloodier, and more complicated, affecting the whole world. The balance of global powers would have been completely different, and perhaps another country or alliance would have become the world superpower in America's place. Furthermore, the lack of oil would have changed the politics of the Persian Gulf and the Middle East. That region, which today plays an important role in the political and economic map of the world, might have been a more peaceful and less controversial area until now. The nature of its economy and global relations would have been different. America's military presence there would have been weak or non-existent, and the power game of global politics would also have been different. On the other hand, the faster development of alternative energy sources would have made the world a cleaner and more sustainable place. Solar, wind, and nuclear energy would have revolutionized agriculture, industry, and transport. Pollution would have been less, and perhaps the global environmental crisis would not even be a topic today. All this forces us to think about how different oil-rich America and oil-less America are. One was a king of power, wealth, and global influence, while the other was a country with limited resources that had to manage its economy and politics without those resources. But would America have been completely weak? Perhaps not. History also teaches us that in difficult circumstances, humans find new paths. The absence of oil would have forced America to invest more in technology, science, and education. It might have emerged as a new kind of power where the most advanced forms of energy were produced and revolutionary changes came to its social system as well. Imagine a world where America not only pioneered new energy sources but also adopted new approaches in its social system. Perhaps a nation that, despite its limited resources, became a beacon of light for the world. Today, hearing the story of this parallel world makes us reflect on our present. That black treasure of oil which has kept us powerful until now, if it hadn't existed, then what? Perhaps a world where instead of environmental pollution, we heard stories of clean energy, where stories of peace echoed instead of wars, and where America emerged as a different but still powerful face. This story teaches us how a small difference in the course of history can bring about a major change. The absence of a natural treasure, the lack of an energy source, and the resulting political, economic, and social realities that changed. This is the world that never was but could have been. And this is the question that forces all of us to think. How different would our world have been if oil had never existed? When we look again at the map of this parallel world, another surprising aspect appears: the pace and direction of the world's technology. Because when there was no easy, powerful, and ubiquitous fuel like oil, perhaps humanity from the very beginning sought such paths that today seem like the technology of the future. It is possible that electric cars would have become common in the early 20th century, and the problems that were solved in the 2000s would have been figured out much earlier. Imagine for a moment if Nikola Tesla's dreams, which gave birth to wireless energy and unlimited electricity concepts, had been suppressed by oil politics, lobbies, and interests in the real world. Then, in this new world, those dreams might have flourished much more strongly. The absence of oil in America would have given more respect to electricity, magnetism, and alternative sciences, and perhaps we would have seen a world in the 1950s where cars floated in the air and there was no concept of smoke, noise, or pollution in cities. On the social level too, America's story would have taken a completely different path. The slow pace of industrial sectors meant that rapid urbanization in cities would have been less, and people would have remained more connected to rural lifestyles. Perhaps America's social structure would have been more familial, more community-based, and more harmonious. Instead of large corporate groups, local industries would have been stronger, and the definition of the American dream would have been connected more to intelligence, innovation, and community service than wealth. But every world has challenges too. If there was no oil, America might have bowed more to European powers due to economic pressures. It might have been weak in its defense system and lagged behind in the race for superpower status. But it is also possible that these weaknesses made it wiser, more united, and more peaceful. Because a nation deprived of military power might have laid foundations in diplomacy, technology, and education that made it a soft superpower. A power that influences through knowledge rather than guns. It is also true that the world's trade routes, global alliances, and political boundaries would have changed completely. Europe might have remained the center of the world for longer, and emerging economic powers in Asia, like Japan and China, would have established their positions much earlier. Perhaps the world's economic capital would not be New York but Tokyo or London. Even industries like Hollywood, which thrived due to the oil-fueled industrial cities, might never have reached that scale. America's cultural influence, its music, films, and fashion industry, all would have taken a different shape and impact. Another astonishing idea is that the world's wars might not have reached such great intensity. Tanks, warplanes, and destructive naval fleets mostly ran on oil. Without oil, wars would have been limited, and humanity might not have witnessed the massive destruction imposed by World Wars I and II. In this alternate world, humanity might have been less broken, less scattered, and the wounds of history less deep. But where humanity was weaker in wars, perhaps its relationship with nature was stronger. The lack of large cities in America, a strong rural population, and the rapid development of clean energy. All these aspects create a world where our rivers, forests, mountains, and skies would have been much cleaner and safer than today. Perhaps the global warming crisis would never have arisen, and today we would be breathing in a green world with future technology. The most beautiful and perhaps the deepest lesson of this entire story is how a small difference in the world, the presence or absence of a natural treasure, can change the course of human history to such an extent. America's power, its politics, its military, its culture, and even every turn in global history is connected to the existence or non-existence of oil. And when we think about if this treasure had never come out of the ground, perhaps the world would have been less polluted, less war-torn, and more balanced. And that is why alternate history always forces us to think. Our decisions, our resources, and our priorities shape not only today's world but the future of centuries to come. Thank you for spending time with us on this journey. If you liked this story, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can come back with more interesting historical and alternate stories. We will meet next time with a new topic. Until then, share your thoughts with us about which what-if story you want to hear next.